Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and today I am back with a tutorial using some products from the latest Beading School bi-monthly subscription box. That one arrived back in mid-May and it had the theme called Tulip Mania. If you haven't seen it already, I'll link the unboxing in the corner, and I will also leave a link right down below the video so you can be taken to the subscription page on Beading School so you can sign up to receive future boxes if you're interested and find out all the information about them. They are fabulous and always inspire me to come up with something new, just like this design below. I'll leave the list of materials that you'll need as well as the quantities and link directly to those as well if you'd like to get those outside of the subscription. And the only things I pulled from my own stash are the bead stringing wire as well as the findings. And the necklace that I'm going to make with you today is going to use some materials that are a little bit different than what came in the Tulip Mania box, just because I used all of what I had in the example piece that you see below. We'll be putting some of these floral components that we will bead first together into a necklace that comes out to be about 18 inches, plus I have a little extender added to the back portion. That's up to you if you want to do that. But of course, you can also turn these floral components into all sorts of other things, including a bracelet, earrings, decorative brooch. You can use it as a pendant on a chain, just with one single beaded flower. So there's lots of different options that you can have fun with once you have started putting some of these components together. For my beading thread today, I will be using the 6-pound test FireLine and a size 11 beading needle. And besides the beads that you'll see listed below, that include the 2-hole cabs, the Czech flower petals, 3mm fire polish, Gekko beads, 15-0 and 11-0 seed beads, as well as 10 or 12mm pearls. You'll of course need your scissors and some jewelry pliers to complete your work. Now that that's all out of the way, let's go ahead and gather up our materials. You can string your beading thread and we will jump into this tutorial. To get started, I will show you how to make one of these floral components, and we're going to need a total of 3 to make that necklace. So once you've done the first one, you can back up the video and then create as many more as you'd like, but we will be making our first one together. And the first thing we want to do is pick up one of our 2-hole cabochon beads, and we want to be going up through the left-hand side. So of course, this has 2 holes, one on the left, one on the right, and we have the dome portion facing up. Let's go ahead and go up through the left, and then you can pull this bead down and leave yourself about a 6-inch tail that we'll be weaving back in. And if you prefer to use a stop bead, you're more than welcome to do so. Once we've gone through that left-hand hole, we're then going to pick up 3 of our 11-0s, and then we're going to sew down through the other hole that's on the right of this cabochon bead. And go ahead and pull your thread. We've got 3 on that side, and we're going to pick up another 3 and sew back up the left-hand side. Pull, and now we have 3 on either side. Now take your needle and continue sewing through those 3 seed beads that you placed at the top. And then pick up 6 more 11-0s. Now sew through the 3 11-0s on the bottom. We'll just go through as many as you can get through at once. 1 more to go. And pull. And now we're going to pick up 6 more 11-0s. And now sew through the next 3 11-0s that are already in place. There's 1. 2 and 3. And then I like to just make a 1/2 hitch knot right here to secure our thread a little bit since I'm not using a stop bead. And pulling on both of those threads, and then sew through the next, say, 3 11-0s. And pull this nice and tight. Now pick up a 15-0 and sew back through the same 11-0 that you're currently exiting. So go in the same direction, everything. And that places one 15-0 right on the outside of that 11-0. And then we also want to sew through the next 3 11-0s. And we're going to repeat this 5 more times. Pick up a 15-0, sew back through the same 11-0, and then sew through the next 3 11-0s. Now we've got another one placed. We're going to have a total of 6 of those around this ring. So keep repeating. And we have one more to go. Pull nice and tight. And then you can step up by going through that next 15-0. At this point, I like to put a needle onto my tail thread and weave that back in just to get it out of the way. So I'm going to do that and then meet you right back for the next steps. And with the tail thread out of the way, you can now see that I am coming out of this 15-0, one of the ones on the side. We've got 6 of those around our piece, and we're going to start inserting some of our petal beads. And we want to make sure we pick them up the same way every time. They do have a front and a back. And the part that I want facing up is the part that is the side that has the indent. So I'm going to be picking these all up from what I'll call the top down. So I'm going to pick one up and pull it towards my beadwork. And then pick up an 11-0 and sew back up through the same petal bead. And I'm just going to hold this in place and pull my thread. And you can just slide that up as close as you can to your 15-0. That 11-0 is going to be on the bottom and it's going to sit like this. And these are going to be loose until we get everything in place, so don't worry about that. For now, take a look at your 15-0 and you can see that we had gone through the petal heading off in this direction first from the left-hand side of the 15-0. So as we've come back up through the petal, we now want to go through the right-hand side of the 15-0 to secure that in place. And then we're going to pick up 3 more 15-0s and head back through the same 15-0 in the same direction you had gone through it previously. We're going to make a little picot that's going to sit at the top of the petal. And it's going to look just like that. Now we want to head over to our next 15-0. And in between this one and the next one, we can go ahead and pick up a 15-0, a Gekko bead, and a 15-0, and sew through the next 15-0 that's sticking out on the ring. And we're going to repeat what we already did with the petal bead the last time, 5 more times, so all around the piece. So just like we did before, head from the top down and pull the petal bead to your beadwork. Then pick up an 11-0, head up through the same petal bead, and pull that towards your beadwork again. Sew back through that 15-0 that's over top of the petal, going in the opposite direction this time. And then pick up 3 more 15-0s and sew back through the same 15-0 where you started. Go ahead and pull this again nice and tight. And to get to your next 15-0, you'll pick up one 15-0, one Gekko, and one more 15-0, and sew through the next one that's sticking out. And we're ready for our next petal. So once again, top down and pull that to your beadwork. Pick up your 11-0 and sew back up through the petal. Sew through the 15-0 in the opposite direction. Pick up 3 more. And sew through it again. And pull it all nice and tight. And now we'll do our 15-0, our gecko, and our 15-0, and sew through the next one that's sticking out. So as you can see, these petals will still be flipping around on you. Like I said, this is not together yet, but it will come together. So don't worry if these are flipping around and are loose. Just get everything in place and pull everything as tight as you can for now. And I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video while I finish the other 3 petals. And now with all those beads in place, we're just going to sew around that ring of 15-0s and geckos one more time to start to reinforce this. So I'm coming out of this 15-0 right now. I'm just going to keep sewing through the next 15-0, gecko, and then it'll be a pattern of 3 15-0s and a gecko repeating. And we're not going around the picot, we're just going around the 15-0s that are around that immediate ring. So take your time and just sew all around those. Go through a few at a time, as many as you can get through at once. And go around at least one full time to start to pull this together. And your petals and everything are still loose, but notice how the ring of 11-0s is sitting at the top. The other ring of beads that we just went around to reinforce is slightly below that. And what you want to do is come out of one of those center 15-0s that's right above a petal bead. And then head straight down the petal bead. And if we flip this over, you can see the 11-0 right there. You'll want to go through that as well. And we're going to start to tighten up around the bottom. And next, it may be helpful for you to just make sure all your petals are turned in the same direction with the 11-0 that's facing up. Again, we're going to be working on the bottom of this flower now and start to bring this all together. I'm coming out of this 11-0 right here, and we're going to repeat this all the way around. We're going to pick up 2 11-0s and then sew through the next 11-0 underneath that next petal. Pull and give this a little turn. Pick up 2 more 11-0s and sew through the next one. Pull and turn. So just keep repeating that all the way around. 2 11-0s and sewing through the next one. And then when you get to your last one, you can just keep going through those 11-0s in that ring around the bottom and sew around that entire ring at least one more time and pull that tight as you go. And then you can exit out of one of your 11-0s that is directly underneath one of your petal beads. So right now I'm coming up out of this 11-0 right here. And now we're going to pick up 3 11-0s. Sew back through the same 11-0 that you're currently exiting again, and then sew through the next 3 11-0s so that you're coming out at the bottom of the next petal. And we'll repeat that all the way around. So pick up 3 11-0s, sew through the same 11-0 you're currently exiting, as well as the next 3. You can see we're forming these picots that are sitting right underneath the petals. All right, 3 more. Sew through that same bead again, and then through the next 3. And this is what we have so far, and I'm coming out of the 11-0 right here at the bottom of that first picot we made, and we can go ahead and sew directly up through the left-hand side of this one. And we're going to start to join the bottom with the top of our beadwork, and from there we're going to pick up 5 of our 15-0s and 1 11-0. Then you can flip this over and you'll sew through the 15-0 right over top of that same petal that we're working with, the one that is at the end of that picot right there. And when you pull that, you can see we've got this little area of beads that's surrounding the side of that petal. And we're coming out right there on top of it. And now we're going to pick up an 11-0 and 5 15-0s. Now turn your beadwork over again and identify that same picot that we were coming out of at first. This time go down through the bead that's on the opposite side. So not the one on the top, but the one on the side. And pull that nice and tight. And you can see we've added this loop all the way around that petal bead now. Now we're going to continue to the next one. You can sew to the left towards the next petal. And we're going to sew through those 4 seed beads at the bottom so that we can come out of the left-hand side of that picot. And like we did before, we'll pick up 5 15-0s plus an 11-0. Flip it over. Go through that 15-0 that's on the top. Then pick up an 11-0, but this time only pick up two 15-0s. The reason you're going to do that is because we already have some beads in place on this side, and all we need to do on this side now is skip those first two 15-0s and go through the third one, which is the one that's also in the middle of that section. We'll pull your beads. And now we'll complete this side by picking up two 15-0s and sewing down through the left-hand side of the picot. Once again, pull that nice and tight, and this is what you have so far. And we want to get to our next petal bead. So we're going to go through those next four, go up through the one on the left, and repeat what we did before. So now 5 15-0s, 1 11-0, flip this over, go through the 15-0 on the top of that petal. This time pick up 1 11-0 and two 15-0s. So down through the third 15-0 on the side of that petal, it's already in place. Flip that over, pick up two 15-0s, and sew down through the right-hand side of that picot on the back. Pull nice and tight. And then we'll head off to the left, sewing through those four 11-0s, and repeat that process again. So at this point, I'm going to speed up the video and do these next two petals, and then we'll finish up that last one together. And now with this last petal, it's just slightly different. We already have this section of beads in place, so we just need to pick up two 15-0s. We're coming out of the left-hand side of that picot. We'll sew up through the third 15-0 in that group. Flip our piece over. Pick up two 15-0s and an 11-0. Sew through our 15-0 that's on top. Pick up a 11-0 and two 15-0s. Sew down through the third 15-0 on this side. Tuck those underneath that Gekko bead as usual. Pick up two more 15-0s and then sew down through the right-hand side of the picot. Pulling that once again. And then we're going to follow our thread path to the top of our beadwork. So I'm just going through that picot and up through this side and up through these 15-0s. And now we're going to sew around that whole ring of seed beads on the outside at least once to tighten this up. So I'm coming out of this 15-0 down here. You go through the next two 15-0s, 11-0, 15, 11, and so on. And just sew all around that ring and tighten it a little bit as you go. And then I also like to tighten up this ring that's around the cabochon bead one more time. So I'm just gonna follow my thread path now to get to that inner ring of seed beads. Heading over this way and then making my way to that ring of 11 O's and just tighten that up right around the center by sewing through all of those beads at least one more time. And that's what your piece should look like at this point, which means that it is all done. There's a look at the back, and all you'll need to do now is just weave in and knot your working thread a little bit. So if you want, maybe make your way to the back of the piece, following your thread path. And make several half-inch knots to the point where you feel like your beadwork is secure. And then you can back up the video and make 2 more of these components if you're going to make that necklace that we're going to put together. And once you have 3 of these components complete, we can meet back and finish up this tutorial. And welcome back. We have our 3 components all beaded and we are ready to start putting this together. You can right now trim off about 22 inches of beading wire, and mine is just a generic roll of some pink wire that I've had for a very long time. You can use pretty much anything from a lighter to a more medium density, heavy duty type of beading wire. I love Soft Flex. That one comes in a lot of fun colors, and you can of course just use regular silver if you want to, but I figured since I had the pink, I'll just go ahead and use that. And what we're going to do is just flip over these components. And I'm going to position them so there's one petal on the top and one on the bottom, kind of like that. We're going to be going through the top third of these flower components. That way they hang down automatically. If we just went through the center, they might want to flip around on us. But by going through the top portion of the back, we're going to let gravity do the work and let them hang where they're supposed to. So looking at this one, for example, I'm just going to take my beading wire and I'm just going to feed it behind these seed beads. I'm going to try to come out of these from underneath these gray ones on the left. There we go. So that's how I have my first one strung on. And then in between your flowers, you can pick up 3 of your 11 O's and then pick up a 3mm. And once again, I'm using some slightly different colors here because I don't have any more from the box, but you'll use the pink ones if you have that. Next, we'll pick up one of our pearls, and I'm using a 10mm in this example, but in the box we had 12mm, so use those if you have them. Then we can pick up another 3mm fire polish and 3 more of our 11 O's. And then pick up your next component and string that one just like you did the first one, going behind those seed beads through the upper third of that beadwork. Be careful that you don't crimp your beading wire. And feel free to use a clip or something to hold one side in place. I'm just starting to string these toward the center. We're going to do what we did before, which was to pick up 3 11 O's, then a 3mm, then our large pearl, then a 3mm, and 3 11 O's. Pull those down. And then we can pick up our final component in the same exact manner, going underneath those seed beads. And on each side, once again, we can pick up 3 of our 11-ohs, and then a 3mm and our pearl. And I've got this flipped around now, so we're seeing the front of the flowers. And then on the other side, again, we're picking up 3 11-ohs and a 3mm and our next pearl. So that is going to make the front of our necklace, and now we can just string on additional beads to either side. And if you want to make one like the example, we'll just be alternating some more of our 3mm fire polish beads and some 15-oh seed beads as far as we can until you run out of your 3mm probably, and then you'll finish up each side with 15-ohs. I'm going to complete one and then we'll meet back and complete the other one together. All right, so as you can see, one side is complete, and the way that I finished that up was just by stringing on an alternating pattern after the large pearl, a 3mm and a 15-oh, and just kept alternating those. And I used about 27 of them on each side. And after that, because I didn't have enough to quite finish the length that I wanted, I just continued using 15-oh seed beads. So keep going, alternating your 3mm and your 15-oh seed beads until you've used about 27 or used up as many as you could, and then we'll meet back. And now you can just go ahead and complete the remainder of your necklace. I'll be using about 55 15-ohs to finish up this side to make about an 18-inch necklace once our findings and everything are in place. And so I'll just be continuing to string these all on, and then we'll want to make sure everything is pushed down so you don't have any gaps before we complete our findings on this side. And by completing this side, you'll also know how I went about completing the other one. So once I get the rest of those seed beads added, we'll meet back and finish up. All right, now with all the beads in place, I am just going to secure the end by first stringing on 3 crimp beads. And then stringing on a wire guard. So I'm going through one side of that and then through the other. And I'm going to head down through those same 3 crimp beads with the other side of the beading wire and pull this down so that the wire guard almost meets those crimp beads, and also checking to make sure that there isn't any significant looseness in the rest of the beadwork. And then you can take a pair of crimping pliers if you have them, and you can just go ahead and crimp those crimp beads. And I'm using 3 just for some added security. Squeeze those nice and tight on that beading wire so it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to trim off the excess right up to those crimp beads. And now we'll take our crimp covers, and you could probably get about 3 of these onto this section, and we'll just go ahead and cover those crimp beads, squeeze those onto that area. And now with those covered up, we can take our final jump ring and attach that to this side. And if you want to add on an extender chain, this is just a piece of chain that I have trimmed off of a length that I had in my stash. And I wire wrapped a matching purple bead that I had left over onto the bottom of it. And we'll just close up this side by twisting these together. And that is the completed necklace, along with the first one that contains the exact contents from the Tulip Mania themed Beading School Academy subscription box. Once again, I will leave the link to that right down below the video. Those boxes have been selling out very quickly, but there may be some spots available now. And the next one will be shipping around mid-July. Down below, I'll also have the full list of materials and everything linked if you wanted to get your hands on those items outside of the subscription, along with the quantities. Have fun with this tutorial. Feel free to turn those components into all different sorts of finished jewelry, like we talked about at the beginning. And feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you plan to give this a try or plan to do something different with these beaded flowers or anything else you'd like to say. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to give it a big thumbs up and hit subscribe while you're here because I would love to have you back. And go ahead and share the video with your other beading friends. That's all I have for now. I will be back again soon though. I hope to see you again next time. And until then, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.